In regards to a note that Ed made, I want to share this quote by Viktor Frankl. He says, "When we are no longer able to change our situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." And so I think there's an opportunity here for a lot of organizations, and we're seeing the opportunity for us to take the current situation with the pandemic and use it to elevate our organizations and become more effective, adopt the cloud, adopt a remote workforce, and look for those benefits regardless of the current circumstance. So it's a great opportunity for us to kind of push forward as organizations and look for areas for efficiency. Now, we talked about this earlier in our previous presentation, and I won't spend too much time on it, but here's our agenda. So I'm going to give you guys some high, strong opinions around information architecture around Office 365, and then we're just going to demo the rest of the time. And then at one point, we're going to talk with the guys over at SkySync, because my conversation today is to present the art of the possible. What does an effective workforce look like utilizing Office 365 and the tool set within that space? However, what it doesn't cover is how do you get all your data in there? And unlike previous versions of SharePoint, it's not as easy as just getting a migration tool and moving data. There's throttling issues. We're talking about the cloud here. There's some complexities that happen. And so the guys at SkySync will actually be able to present on that, provide their recommendations, and why their tool is so critical to help organizations adopt Office 365, SharePoint, and Teams. And then ultimately, what's next? What are some recommended steps for you guys to take following this presentation, and then ultimately we'll open it up for some Q&A. So when we talk about Office 365, I must say this isn't the subscription base of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that your children might know about from college. We're talking about the business portion of Office 365, which has an array of features that come with it. Everything from Exchange for email, OneDrive, SharePoint, Delve, Yammer, Stream, Planner, and etc. We're going to touch base actually on a huge amount of these today, and we'll kind of work through this as like maybe what a typical day might look like for an employee that works for a company that has fully adopted Office 365. Now, when we talk about collaboration, we are going to dive into these areas, everything from organizational content and communication, which we would specify as a company's intranet, to the collaboration tool set that is available to the individual via OneDrive and chat, and then ad hoc collaboration within teams with just multiple individuals and ultimately belonging to a collaborative group, and in this case, a department, HR specifically, and then how some of these overall overreaching features and systems such as Stream, Search, Flow, and business forms and polls and quizzes and those kind of things kind of come into play and provide some functionality across the board. Now, I can't iterate this enough, and I need to say it almost every single time because it is so critical. When we talk about Office 365 and adoption, we are talking about the adoption of collaborative groups. In this ecospace, we call them 365 groups. You establish the group, you get the tool set. If you are not taking the necessary steps to architect around what groups are going to be provisioned and what widgets and features should be turned on and off on a given group, you will fail at your adoption, or at least the adoption will be high and you'll have a mess in which you need to clean up. This is critical for every adoption of Office 365. We could spend a whole 2 hours talking about this, but this is just my must-have word of warning: architect around 365 groups. Make sure you have some proper information architecture in place before you just go out and just turn on Teams and let the Wild West happen within your organization. All right, so let's jump directly into this demo. So my demo is primarily going to be utilizing Edge, the new Edge that's based upon Chrome. So the user experience that we would have here is going to be exactly the same as if I were actually using Chrome itself, and of course older versions of Edge. Okay, so I just want to reiterate the user experience using that browser. So let's talk through this. So here's the perspective: our branded company intranet, where employees go, and in our case is the default homepage for every employee. So I come into the office and ta-da, I get the company's intranet immediately available to me. Oh, looks like I got a notification from Rhett that's urgent. What do you want me to do today? Okay, well, I'm going to ignore that for now and I'm going to come back to him. So looking at the navigation, let's talk through some stuff. Top left, we have the app launcher. This is Microsoft's tooling or navigation to access a handful of all the web-based tools that are available to you within Office 365. This is federated and altered based upon the licensing in which I have. So ultimately, I can navigate to my web version of Outlook, my calendar, planner, forms, Excel, all these tooling. Now, theoretically, I can't think of a use case by which an employee comes here and clicks on Word. It doesn't work that way, right? We work in collaborative groups, and thus most users and most clients, the adoption rate is happening on our intranet. That I come to the intranet, and the tooling in which I need to have access to are the quick links in which I provide, or they're available in the navigation in which we create. The tall tale sign of an effective intranet is, could you hire an employee tomorrow, give them one URL, which is the intranet, and utilizing the navigation, could they find the information they need to do their job effectively? If the answer is yes, you have an effective intranet. If the answer is no, you have work to be done. And it's literally that simple. So as we can see on our internet, we have a mega menu. One of the best things about a mega menu is it sets a precedence, who we are, our company, the people, our values and careers. It really organizes in regards to how we arrange content, as well as other policies, facilities, dining, fun stuff, secured collaboration sites, and more. So it's just a really clean, slick way to actually get employees to get to the content in which they need, okay? Now from this, I can also do a search. So in this example, I'm gonna do a search for the term SharePoint. As I type, I might get some type ahead suggestions, or I can do search more. And by default, the search scope will give me the search results for the perspective, the intranet in which I'm on. I can actually use this breadcrumb, switch from an organizational level, and when I search at the org level, I am getting search results across the entire Office 365 ecosystem. So you'll see here that I have some documents in my personal OneDrive. I can see individuals that have SharePoint probably in their title or as a potential skill. I see sites or teams in which I'm part of, and then I see folders and documents and news articles all related to the term SharePoint. Because we're using Office Web Apps, or because that's integrated into Office 365, I even get a preview panel of the actual documents themselves, and I can actually browse through these documents from the Search Center without actually opening the document to see if that's the document I'm actually looking for. Pretty slick functionality, but pretty straightforward. But the key thing is it's federated. I'm not going to see content in which I don't have access to. And ultimately, I can use that org level search scope to find content across the board, okay? Now, as I go through this page, I can look at news articles. I can see that we have a new chief marketing officer. I can click on that news post, and I can read up on the news post. And in this news post, I might note that, oh, I can leave a comment. This is great. Welcome to the org. I can hit post. I can also mention someone in here. So I can say, hey, you know what? I want to make sure that Rhett sees this. Rhett, check this out. And I can hit post, and I can like as well. And I have a social conversation. People can actually reply to me. When people are mentioned in comments, they'll actually receive a notification that they were mentioned. And the owner of this article page will actually get notifications when people are liking and commenting on the article in which they provisioned. Now, you can turn that off as well. I keep getting these urgent notifications from Rhett. I'll explain that later. And that's the communication. Now, oh, looks like I have a misspelling. So on my intranet, I can go back to the home page, and it looks like the intranet team created an intranet feedback form, which is actually provisioned out of Microsoft Forms. So let me pull this article up, or not this article, this form up. I'll go ahead and log in. A little slow here. And it has two questions: rate the intranet, provide some feedback. There is a misspelling on the last news article, which is ironic because I misspelled it the same exact way. Done. Hit submit. And now I just submitted feedback to that intranet team, and we'll talk about where that goes later. Other things I can look at is I can scroll down the page. I have additional news articles that have been published. I have an employee recognition tool that we've developed. I can see who has birthdays today, as well as work anniversaries. within the organization that's automatically pulling that data from Active Directory. I could check the metrics in regards to some key performance indicators that we have at an organizational level to kind of see how we're progressing as an organization. Some additional content, and then here at the bottom, we're pulling in the trending stream videos from our stream service. And I can see here there's an article about private channels, utilizing private channels. Maybe we'll take a look at that later. Up on the right-hand side, I have some additional web parts. I have weather, some shortcuts to different tooling, which we'll kind of get into. Company events, I can actually click on this event, see the details of this event, and if I wanted to participate or add this event to my calendar, I have a button here that says add to my calendar. So these events are kind of more from an announcement perspective, like I'm not necessarily invited on my calendar, but I can actually be, oh, you know what, I want to participate in that, and then make that conscious choice to add it to my personal calendar. And then I have some personalized web parts, my recent documents and the recent sites in which I access on a regular basis. Okay, so let's dive into this. So other things that I can actually look at is the report center, for instance. So this report center page is a summary page that provides summary information and descriptions about other maybe key reports or business analytics within our organization. Once these Power BI reports load, I can actually interact with them on a thumbnail view level, or I can click on this button here that says view the full size report, and I can actually navigate to the actual Power BI report and get the full details of that report. And I'll go ahead and just interact with that report really quick, just so we can see the different interactions from a Power BI perspective. Power BI is such a powerful tool. One of the things I like most about it is it's simple to make reports. I'm not a report creator, but I can actually create these fairly easily. This report is actually pulling data from an Excel document that's sitting on my OneDrive. But I can take this Power BI report, connect to a SharePoint list, connect to multiple data sources, and they're interactive. So as I select a given team, you'll see the other charts on the actual page adjust based upon my interaction with some of the charts. Okay. So very good. Looks like the team's looking good for today. I'll go back to the intranet, and then yeah, it looks, I don't think there's anything else for me to tackle here, so I might as well hop into my to-do list, because that's kind of the first things that I can do when I start my day. Now, there's a web version, there's a mobile version, and there's probably a desktop version for almost everything that I'm going to show you guys today. And I'm going to kind of jump in between those two interfaces just to kind of show you guys the art of the possible. So in this case, I'm going to pull up my desktop app called Microsoft To Do, and I have some to-do list items. And one of the items that I have is, let's see, intranet feedback, show, let's see here, rush to workforce. And what I did is I ended up having a reoccurring task to remember to tell people happy birthday, because I'm not very, I'm a not very social individual. So I'm going to hop in here. We're going to be hypothetical, and let's say Rhett's birthday's today. So I'm going to hop into Teams. I can go to new chat. By the way, for you guys that are using Teams, Control N will start a new chat, and I can start typing Rhett's name, select him, tab, and happy birthday. Now you'll notice we've been getting notifications from Rhett constantly over and over. It's because he flagged that chat notification as urgent. If it's flagged as urgent, I believe every 2 minutes it will notify me until I actually read the article or access the chat in which he's communicated with me. So now that I've done that, I'll stop getting those notifications within my actual Teams client. All right, so from here, I might make some, let's in this hypothetical scenario in our demo, I'm part of the HR department. So from the intranet, I'm going to access my HR's collaboration space. And you'll see here we have secured collaboration. I'm going to click on the HR site, and I'm going to be navigated to the HR department site. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out that is super critical, and these are suggestions that I'd highly recommend to each of you. If you notice, I no longer have the navigation of the intranet. Why? Because I'm not in the intranet. This is a secured departmental collaboration space. We have a hub navigation across the top that says secured. It says private group, and it says it's a department. And in this heading, I can actually click on the HR title of the actual group itself and get details of who are all the members, recent emails, and recent files having to do with this group. On the right-hand side, I can see how many members are actually part of my team, and this is where I live as an employee within the HR department. I have some recent news articles that we've shared with each other internally. We have some quick links to Business Central and Dynamics, or the Dynamics HR component. I can see my team's calendar, and maybe one of these things is important to me, and I say, oh, you know what, I want to add that to my calendar. I have that capability even from this interface. I see that Ryan Compte is having PTO this coming Friday, and we might do some fun social stuff, such as, you know, having a team gallery on our homepage just to promote, you know, work-life balance. Microsoft also has an array of these suggested content intranet web parts that actually serve up content. In this particular web part, it's showing me the most recent documents that have been being used and updated or whatever within this site. And it's just maybe informative of knowing that another employee is working on a given document. Now, one of the things that's really great about this as well is you might look at this and say, well, Kip, you know what? We use the world's best calendaring system. And guess what it is? It's not SharePoint. It's called Outlook. So why would I expose a team's calendar from within SharePoint? Well, actually, this calendar is in Outlook. So if I pull up my Outlook calendar, and because I'm part of multiple teams, on the left-hand side, I scroll down. Here's all the groups in which I belong to. And you'll see in this list that I can actually pull up my HR calendar, and I can have them overlaid if I chose to, or I can access that team's calendar from with Outlook. I can schedule appointments from here. This is the primary interface for all calendars. Most calendar integration on the SharePoint side is exposing this group's calendar information, but Outlook is still the primary tool and the suggested tool for those kind of things. Okay, so let's look also at the navigation over here. So on the nav, we have some quick links, right? I have links to the Planner application. I have a link to our teams that is associated to HR. I have a document library, which we store our records that have to do with an HR department, and I'll kind of go over some of the functionality within document libraries. As you can see, we have metadata columns. We can see who created the document, is the actual document a record, and there's multiple views in which I can create for a given document library. We have the intranet feedback list, in which we'll talk about here momentarily. And then ultimately, I even have my action items, which is AKA Planner, being exposed on my HR department site, where I can assign tasks and take on responsibilities. But before I dive into kind of getting to my action items for the day, I had an article that I wanted to share with my team. Now, you may say, Kip, well, why not just email your team this important article? Because if I hire someone tomorrow, do they get that email? No. If I search for that content, am I going to find it if it's in email? Not very well, right? And so the more that we can make SharePoint the authoritative source of data, certainly when we talk about formalized documentation and even employee announcements, put it in SharePoint. If you want to drive adoption, great, send an email that links to the SharePoint article, but have that be the authoritative source. So as we onboard new employees, or employees can't remember and they want to find something, they actually have an intelligent search product that will help them find the information. Search within Outlook is not an efficient way to find information. So in this example, I have my OneNote application, and last night, I thought of this article that I thought would be really valuable to my employees. So I have multiple notebooks in which I'm part of, and I have my personal notebook. So I'm going to jump over to my personal notebook, and I created an article underneath my demo section about how to effectively work from home. So I wrote this up the other day, and I want to share this with my team. I am actually going to just highlight and copy, and then I'm going to go back to my SharePoint site. I'm going to create a new news post. And let's just choose blank and work effectively from home. And watch this. I'm going to click in the text box. I'm going to paste. Automatically grabs the image off of my clipboard and the text and throws the article in here. Now it looks like we have a little bit of extra spacing, so I'm going to remove that. Everything else looks good. Awesome. So I'm going to post this as a news article. And now it's on my HR site. And just be really clear, for my HR team to consume. This is our secured space, right? So this is me communicating to HR, and now I have a news article. Now you'll notice that there's a couple other news articles. These are actually hyperlinks to external websites. I didn't even have to create or regurgitate those news articles. I could choose a news link, paste in the URL, grabs the thumbnail, the title, and the description, and embeds it onto my page. And then when employees click on those news articles, they're automatically redirected to that public source of information. Pretty slick content and a highly effective way for us to communicate with our employees. All right, so let's hop back. All right, so we went over the calendar gallery. I posted some news. Yeah, let's jump into our navigation because I want to just point these things out. So if I click on Planner, I'm just linking to the Planner application. Planner has a web-based version, once again, mobile version, and not a desktop though. Then Teams, same exact thing. From here, I can click on the Teams tab. That will launch Microsoft Teams. And within Teams, I have all the same functionality that we kind of covered last time, but I'll go over these briefly. Is I have one-to-one chat capabilities with other individuals. My conversation with Rhett, I can actually look and scroll through the history of conversations. I can click on the Files tab here, see files that him and I have shared with one another. I can click on organization, see where he sits within the organizational structure. I can then now navigate to the different departments and teams in which I belong to, and we're going to get into these specifically. In fact, if you'll notice here, if I go over to HR, the team that I'm just part of, you'll notice, oh, look at this. I have a bot or a workflow that has notified the team that new intranet feedback has been submitted on the intranet. That's the submission I did earlier, and we utilized a workflow to do a proper notification to the HR team. We can also see that news was posted on our team site the day before, and now that's showing up within the general feed to promote, right, the content and notification of employees. Also within Teams on the left-hand side, I can access my calendar. And from here, I can see my schedule, I can join meetings, I can do those kind of things, all from within the Teams application. As we know, Teams is instant messaging, live communication, meetings, screen sharing, telephony integration, and all those kind of things. There's so much to Teams, but generally speaking, we'll kind of go over just kind of a light version of what we can accomplish within the Teams application itself. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So let's go back to our team site and let's take a look at our document library. I mentioned this already, and I just want to point these things out a little bit more. So within a document library, and here's a quick tip for all you guys. If you are migrating your on-prem file shares to SharePoint, if you're putting everything for a single department in a single document library, big mistake. You need to separate across multiple libraries because content is different. And one of the things that we configure at a library level is metadata. So in this example, I have these documents. Notice I have no folders, but I have tagging or metadata. And I can come in here and I can choose to turn on my filters and say, and imagine in a scenario where we have hundreds of documents, I can say, you know what, I only want to see documents that have been flagged as a policy or has been modified in the last day, or I know it's a PowerPoint, or I know it was created by KIP, or some other criteria. I can do that if we utilize metadata to our benefit. The other thing that I can accomplish as well is create custom views. So up here, I have a view called All Documents. Well, I could switch that, and I could say, well, I want to view documents grouped by category. So now I can say, okay, here's all my templates, and they're grouped together, and I can access the documents from that perspective. From here, I can actually create new documents from within the library itself. I can create templates and launch the templates from within the library. I can drag files into the browser and plop them in here for an upload. And I have the sync button for the capability to take these files offline. So as you can notice here, if I open up Windows Explorer, it has my organization listed. And one of the libraries that is synced is Test Perspective HR Document Library. And ta-da, it's the same exact documents that we just were looking at with a green checkbox, which means I have an offline copy of these documents to work on. So if I unplugged from the internet, hopped on an airplane, I could work on the employee referral, make some adjustments, get back into the office, connect to the intranet, and sync back up. Super, super powerful. Word to the wise though. This is intended as a one-off scenario for you to have offline capabilities. Do not use this as awesome. We can use SharePoint without using SharePoint, and we'll just use Windows Explorer instead. This is not the primary interface. It's not intended for that. Why? Where's the metadata? Where's the search? And we need to get past this block of like this mind block that so many people have of what information is or what knowledge is. Knowledge is not just documents. That's a very narrow-minded approach of knowledge management. Information and knowledge are people, skills, documents, links, metadata, news, all those things are knowledge, and we need to stop treating as everything is a document. And the longer we stay in this world of file shares and folders, the harder you're going to grasp the idea that knowledge is far greater than that, okay? So this is intended as a one-off of, hey, I need these files for offline purposes, so I'm gonna hit that sync button for my document library so I have an offline copy of these documents, okay? All right, I think that's pretty good for now, actually. Intranet feedback, we did that. Oh, and recycle bin. So I wanna point this out as well. Lists and libraries, every site has a recycle bin. You can see that I deleted a document. From here, I can empty the recyclable, I can recover this to recycle. If I purge this out of the recycle bin, it goes to a stage 2 recycle bin where the administrator of the site can actually still do a recovery. And we can deep dive into DR and backups and those kind of things a little bit more if you guys want to dive into it, but just keep in mind, we have a recycle bin that's automatically tied to document libraries and list items. So let's get some work done today. We're chatting too much, and how are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good still. All right, so let's dive into things. So I have some action items that's part of my day. And you can see that we're utilizing Planner being exposed within a SharePoint page. The functionality that we're going to do here is the same, whether it's the phone, the integration in Teams, the integration in SharePoint, or the actual web-based Planner app. So I have a couple items in the backlog. I'm gonna actually move these to my bucket because I'm gonna tackle these. So I'm just gonna drag them over. And item number 1, let's go ahead and click on it. So Kip's bucket, can you send a private channel video to the HR team? It's really important that we understand this functionality. Okay, so I need to share a video about private teams. And I think we saw that on the company's intranet. So I'm gonna go back to the company's intranet and let me go and a little bit of, in our demo world, I can't hit back to the intranet because you'll go to our intranet, and that's super private special stuff there. So let me manually navigate back to the intranet. And on the bottom of the page, I believe we had some streaming videos, and one of them was the private channel. And these videos are not embedded, they're embedded in SharePoint, but they're not stored in SharePoint. They're actually uploaded to stream and optimized there. So as I click on this video, I can actually start watching and listening to myself, which is a little weird. All right, so I can like this video. I'm gonna immediately hit stop, and I'm gonna choose to open this up in the stream application. Now stream, think of it as like it's your private secured YouTube. Optimization of videos. When we record meetings in Teams, it actually gets uploaded to stream and optimized for recording purposes. Collaborative groups across your ecosystem have secured channels within the stream application. So in this example, I can discover, find different channels, videos, I can search, and I can find content. What I can also do from here is choose to share. So I'm gonna grab the share link, copy that, and I need to share it with the HR team. So I'm gonna go to the HR team and say, here is the video on private channels. Oops, I forgot to include it. So you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here, mouse over, and by the way, you can turn this on and off. I'm gonna edit my post, and I'm gonna inject the hyperlink that I just copied. Yeah, that's perfect. And then, and just hit check. And now I've shared that link with my team and we're good to go. So I'm gonna go back to my chat task list within my HR site, and let's mark that complete. All right, next item. Contact the HR, well, let's dive into this. Contact the HR director. We need to talk to him because the CRM team is eating too many cookies and there's not enough cookies for everyone else within the organization. So we take ourselves really serious here. This is a major problem at JourneyTEAM with a still full stocked kitchen. So let's figure out who the HR director is and let's schedule a meeting. And I don't know who it is actually. So let's take a look. So from the intranet, I'm going to just type leadership. Oh, here you go, senior leadership. Click on this page. Let's see what's what. Really cool poster here. Leaders are like eagles. We don't have either of them here. Okay. And CRM director, yeah, Eric Bynes. So I'm gonna click on Eric Bynes' name and I can see his contact info, where he sits within the org structure. Here's the org structure, files that him and I have in common. Very interesting. And because we have LinkedIn integrated, I can click on LinkedIn and see that Eric and I have 112 mutual connections, right? And I can see where his work history is. So I now know who I need to contact in the CRM team. So I'm gonna actually click on his email and it's gonna launch my Outlook. And yeah, that's perfect. And so I need to meet with him about cookies. Your team eats too many cookies. All right. And you know what? I don't know when's a good time for him. And he's an executive and they're all, overly sensitive about their calendar. So I'm going to use the new meeting poll or the Find Time integration. So what Find Time does, it's a tool that's free, part of your Office 365 subscriptions, and it pulls in his calendar and mine. So I can say, you know what, we can meet today. That's actually tomorrow. Today we have no available time together. So I'm going to suggest these 3 times tomorrow. 30 minutes should be good enough. And let's make it a Teams meeting. And I'm going to insert this into the email. And it's going to give him an email with some voting. And he can actually go and vote the times that work best for him. Now, what's slick about this is this works even outside your org. So if we're meeting with clients on a regular basis, we'll do a Find Time. And then because we don't know your calendar, right? We have no idea. And so we'll suggest some times, you take a vote, and then once you guys are done voting, we'll be able to schedule a meeting. Okay, so it looks like we got that ironed out. So I'm gonna go ahead, schedule a meeting, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this completed. And we're blowing through our stuff. Oh, check my personal tasks. Okay, I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna hop over to my to-do app, ask Rhett to complete time off. Okay, apparently Rhett has a problem doing time off. So let's have a personal chat with Rhett and, well, let's just give him a call. So I could call him on his mobile phone if I want, or I can actually have a Teams phone call. I'm gonna just do a Teams call. I'm gonna turn on my camera. Hey, Rhett. Are you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. Hey, do you want to, let me share my screen and I'll show you where that time off request is so that way you can submit it, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit this button here, guys. I'm gonna share my screen. And Rhett, if you look here, go to the company's intranet and we have these quick links in the top right-hand corner. Oh, the last thing I wanna see is myself here, hold on. Stupid scroll thing, tool. Let's see. Yeah, top right-hand corner of the intranet. Are you following me here? So click on time off request. And what we've done is we have the instructions on, when you submit a time off request, and someone on the team just created a basic Power BI, a codeless custom web form that allows you to select or give a description of your time off, right? So just enter the title or the reason, select a start date and an end date, and then just hit that checkbox. And then that will kick off the approval process. Once I approve it, then it will go into our team's calendar. Is that cool?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, no worries. If you can take care of that right now, that'd be great. All right, so I'm gonna hang up with Rhett. And, we're doing that in my personal to-do list. So, all right, perfect. All right, check intranet feedback. All right, that's right, because we're owners of the company's intranet. So we have this SharePoint list called Intranet feedback. Now, if you remember earlier, we saw a misspelling on one of the articles on the Intranet. I filled out a Microsoft form and I filled it out. This is what happened. And by the way, the flow to do this took me last night maybe about 15 minutes to do. So let me just show you that to show you how simple. Now, not all flows are simple. Some flows can be really complex. And so I don't want to misguide you that like, oh, all flows are easy. Just some of them are. And depending on what you're trying to accomplish will determine if they're that easy or not, right? So in this example, let me just show you what happens. So we have this flow. And what I'm doing is as I dive into this actual flow, I'm grabbing a response from a form, and then I'm creating an item in a SharePoint list. So I provide the address, the list name. I'm telling, hey, title or the rating from the flow goes into the title field. The feedback they give us on the form goes into the summary field. I'm not going to update the status value or internal notes. And then I'm also going to invoke a flow bot within the environment, and I'm going to make a post on the human resources general channel saying a new Intranet feedback has been submitted. And that is the flow that's happening. So that's how in this SharePoint list, there is a misspelling on the last news article got assigned. So it's really slick. So I can actually come here and I'm going to edit this item. So I'm like, okay, internal notes. I can change these internal notes. I can say, you know what, I'm going to tackle this one. So I'm going to click here, start typing my name, assign it to myself, and the status is action needed. And now my item is wrapped up. And this stupid little toolbar is like constantly in the wrong place. Sorry, guys. All right, and there's my action item needed. It's assigned to me, and I'm good to go. Okay. All right. So let's go over some more stuff. So what else do we got? We got another action item needed. So let's pull up this feedback. And this feedback is we have a broken link on the homepage. There's an issue that requires some programming, and we need a resource that knows Node.js. I have no idea who in our organization knows Node. So, well, if all else fails, what do? We search or we go to the company's intranet. Luckily for us, we're smart enough to implement what we call a staff directory. And I'm not talking about, oh, how do I find someone's phone number? That's worthless. Hopefully, we get beyond that and we can actually think of staff directories as how do I find someone that has a skill set or worked on a project or something else. That's valuable, right? And so in this example, I'm going to come to the employee directory, and we have some filters across the top here that allow me to filter down and only show employees based upon a number of criteria. In this example, I'm going to find employees that maybe work for a given department because I think it's the SharePoint team that's probably has someone that works in Node.js. So I did that, and I can go through here and I can do some guessing, right? Let's check Jonathan's profile, and he doesn't have any skills listed. Oh, Jono does salsa dancing though. I didn't know that was his thing for him. You know what? This isn't going to work. So I'm going to clear this, and you know what? I can search by skill. So in the top here, I'm going to go by skill. I'm going to type Node. Ah, perfect. We have one individual within the organization that knows Node. I'm going to click on Rhett's profile, and I can actually see here that underneath skill, he has skill sets with Node. And if I want to learn more about Rhett, I can actually click on View Full Profile, and I'll be navigated into Microsoft Delve. Delve is Microsoft's kind of machine learning that says, hey, here's Rhett's profile, and here's all the documents and the people and the content that you and Rhett have in common. This is also where Rhett goes to update his profile and adds more skills moving forward in the future. Okay, and that's it. And so I'll reach out to Delve, or I'll reach out to Rhett later and then talk to him about making those necessary adjustments to that given list. Okay. All right, let's go back to our my to-do list here. Oh, I need to share a file with a client via OneDrive. All right, so I'm going to navigate to OneDrive. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I can go to the OneDrive app in the browser, and I can locate the document in which I want to share, and I can share it from here. So here's the file. I can click on the share button, and I can choose to share in multiple ways. I can say share with a link, but check this out. Set a password. So I can share with the link, but this person has to have a password some way. Or I can choose and say, hey, this share is going to expire tomorrow. So they have 1 day to be able to access this. That's one way I can do this from within my OneDrive. But from Windows Explorer, because I have the OneDrive Sync client enabled, guess what else I have access to from Windows Explorer? My OneDrive. Same exact files, offline copies, 1 terabyte of storage per user. There is no reason for anyone to be storing local files anymore. You throw them in your OneDrive, you can access them locally, but they're also being secured and backed up. And also from this location, I can choose to right click and I can share even from this environment as well. Okay. All right. I'm pushing through. We're almost wrapped up. All right. So we have another action item on our list, but you know what? Let's show you guys what this looks like from Teams, because we've been accessing the planner integration from with Teams this entire time. I can expose and access it via my Teams client as well. So I created a tab here called Action Items, and lo and behold, here's our action items, and we have some remaining items left. We need to update the employee referral policy with Rhett. Okay, sounds good. So let's give Rhett a call and let's make an adjustment to that document. Perhaps maybe we can do some co-authoring with him to accomplish that. So I am just going to, let's give him a phone call. Hey Rhett. Hey, really good, man. Do you have a second? I wanted to go over, I'm thinking, do you want to update the referral? Do you want to update the referral app with me really quick?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just, I have to jump in a meeting and I can't talk during the meeting. So let's just both open up that document and we'll just co-author on it. Do you know where it's at?
Can you share it with me?
Yeah, I'll make sure to share it with you. I'll send you a link, even though you already have access, but I'll send you a link to it really quick via the library, and then let's just hop in there and co-author.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to hop in and edit this document. So our document, or this document, was in our Microsoft Teams or within our employee HR site, right? So let's go to Document Library. And he asked me to share with him really quick. So I'm going to find the referral app, company referral. All right, here, share, and people already within the organization. Oh, okay, Rhett, and send. And he'll immediately get a notification with the link of that document. Now, he already has access, so it doesn't really do anything in this particular instance. But regardless, it's a quick way for him to get notification. So I'm going to open up the document. Now, the web version of Office, Word, it's great, right? Like it's kind of cool, but let's be honest, it's going to jack up your formatting a little bit. It's not as bad as if you try to open a nice formatted Word document inside of Google Docs or something like that, but it's certainly not ideal. So I'm going to open it up in the desktop app, and this is what's pretty awesome. So first off, as this loads, you'll notice that we have the built-in commenting and whatnot, and I get immediate notification, Rhett is here. So Rhett has this document open as well, and we can co-author and work on this document at the same time. Now you may go, oh, what if we mess this up? Not a problem. Within Word, at the top, if I click on the title, I can click on version history. Here's the versions of this document. I can actually open up previous versions, revert this document to previous versions, all from within the Word app. Pretty slick functionality. So I'm going to scroll down here. We're going to remove this section here. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to hit save. I didn't download the document. Document's being saved directly back to SharePoint. I'm going to close it. And ta-da, we are back in business. Our document is updated. Now, this is an employee referral policy. We update it internally. This is kind of our version, but you know what? We need to make sure it's up on the internet. So from within this document library, I can click the ellipses and I can actually choose copy to. I can choose the perspective intranet and I can stupid notification. Copy to, perspective, and I can choose to copy here. The file's already up there. So guess what's going to happen? It's going to overwrite. Look at this. Keep both or replace. I choose replace. It replaced, however, when it replaced it, it created a new version of the employee referral on the company's intranet. Pretty slick functionality. All right, other things that we can do from here. We can access dynamics. If we have dynamics within our 365 tenant, this is where I'm going for project management. This is where I'm going if I'm part of the accounting department. This is where I'm going to access dynamics for HR. If we need to build custom applications, we could do that using Power BI. Pretty slick, where I can build a custom app that works on a mobile phone, submit a new request for time off, and actually automate some business processes with codeless solutions. And that is what Power BI is. If Rhett followed his task and submitted for time off request, I should have an email from him. Missing icon, helping you work. Oh, let's see. Oh, I haven't gotten the notification quite yet. So, and some of the workflow approval processes, I can approve within the actual email itself. I can actually approve a workflow, leave comments, and actually process all from within my email and not even have to navigate out. Okay, so that completes my demo, guys. We have roughly 10 minutes to wrap up. Here's the thing. So hopefully you guys get a breath and an idea of like, okay, what does this look like, or how these systems interact, and what does different things that we can do within the ecosystem. Hopefully we created that. If not, of course, I'm more than willing to even share more and have further conversation. One of the difficulties that you're going to have is getting your data here. It is not as easy. Back in the day, you could do a migration in old version of SharePoint, and we'd like work all weekend long, and on Friday we'd tell everyone to stay out of the system, and by Monday we're migrated. It doesn't work that way. We can't migrate in a day. If we're talking about terabytes and terabytes of data, it's going to take weeks. Will you tell me how that's going to work out? In traditional migration tools, you can't tell an HR department, don't touch your data for 4 weeks as we try to migrate it all. That's not going to work. And so that's why I really, really love the solution that the guys at SkySync has created, because their migration tool keeps synchronizations in place. So HR can keep working on their solutions in their current source. Meanwhile, deltas are being migrated and provisioned, and then we can actually have an effective cutover. And I'll let those guys at SkySync talk to that more at this point. So I'll hand it over to you guys, and you can talk about and why your guys' product is so critical for companies moving over to Office 365. And then we'll come back and do any Q&A.
That's perfect, Kip. Thank you so much, and definitely this is really, really great information for everybody. I'm actually learning some things about Stream myself that I probably need to start implementing in my day-to-day life. So, before we get started in here, though, just to kind of give everybody a quick introduction, my name is David Donnelly, Strategic Alliances Manager with SkySync. I've been with the company for about 3 years now, and SkySync's been around for about 7. We're based out of Ann Arbor, but I'm actually located in Dallas myself, and so really glad to have the opportunity to be able to speak with you all today. And hopefully share some tips and tricks that will help being able to move your content into the cloud a little bit easier and keeping everything in synchronization as that happens. And Kip, we can probably jump about 2 slides. We're just going to start really with a high-level overview of what is SkySync in general. So generally, I'm sure that everybody's really run across different migration tools in the past, and we are a little bit outside the box in that mindset. What we like to say is SkySync is really an enterprise content integration platform. And that's primarily because we weren't built to be a migration tool just from one system to another system, but really being able to take a holistic look at your entire environment and say, anything that holds files and folders, how can we help to consolidate this in an efficient manner, move this into the cloud, and get your team up and ready to go as soon as possible? So what that's fallen into as far as our use cases are generally on this list here. Very large scale file migration. We pretty much have seen everything from 500 gigabytes of a migration all the way into multiple petabytes, and are battle tested and being able to help make sure that that content is moved appropriately. The other big use case that I would say we run across frequently is the synchronization. So as I'm sure pretty much all of you have some sort of on-premise network file shares right now, and maybe looking to figure out how do I move this into OneDrive into SharePoint Online without causing a ton of user disruption. We'll get into the user disruption piece a little bit later, but we are able to synchronize that content either in the one way, as Kip was describing, to be able to get you just strictly from A to B in that situation. Or we also have had situations in the past where clients have wanted to keep their network file shares, but be able to access both systems depending on whether or not they were in the office or working remotely. So
yeah, and a
that's
good
also
example, if you don't mind, a good example of that, we met with a client just yesterday that during their archive process from project collaboration spaces, they thought, well, we want to archive those to a local file share. Well, here you go, right? Where we could actually implement SkySync and do some synchronization of data onto an on-prem from like a disaster recovery or archive purpose.
100%, and that's definitely a very frequent use case that we've seen, especially recently. Being able to make sure that there's a more comprehensive kind of like disaster recovery process and backup process in place. And then the last one I'll touch on here is just global content insights. So generally, every time that we've had conversations with clients in the past, the first question is always, what do we have out in our environment? We know that we have these file shares. We know that we probably have a little bit of shadow IT, some Dropbox and Box out in the environment, but we don't actually know how much content there is. And with SkySync, we do actually have an analysis tool that JourneyTEAM is extremely familiar with, and we would be able to actually give you a full report on how much content is in your environment, what file types those are, and which users own the majority of that content, so that you can create a little bit more of a comprehensive plan onto what needs to be moved now and what might be able to be moved into something more like an Azure blog. Next slide. So looking at just how we integrate this content with Teams. So, the three real benefits in you being able to do a migration like this is one, once this content is into SharePoint Online, you will be able to access it via Teams. And through doing the synchronization, you can actually have that content also living in places like a Box, like a Dropbox, or even network file shares, but be able to still work in this one consistent place for all of your employees and your entire workforce. The other major benefit to that is that if you have all of this content in the system of record of Office 365, you do also have the protections of AIP and Microsoft Information Protection, making sure that everything is being shared appropriately for the organization. And just going through a high-level migration overview of kind of what we've seen in the field before. Like I said, the other migration tools generally focus on one of these two major approaches. I would say the most frequent one is the bulk move approach. Exactly what Kip was describing. You shut down the source platform, move the content over during the course of a weekend, and then let your workforce be able to jump onto Office 365 that Monday. But the reality is that migrations are just much more complicated than they were in the past. There are generally now multiple systems involved. There are a lot of users. There's much more content than people have ever needed to migrate in the past. And by doing a bulk move approach, or a lift and shift, as we like to call it, generally it ends up causing too much disruption for employees and for for the organization in general. So what we like to do is to be able to have an approach that we call a slow walk migration that kind of gets you away from all of that. And then the other side is the user perform migration, which we see very rarely nowadays. So again, SkySync benefits primarily just non-user impacting by doing that one-way synchronization, still giving you access to the source platform and not causing any of your day-to-day workflows to be disrupted. There's a ton of automation built into the platform, specifically around moves to Office 365, OneDrive, and SharePoint Online. Automated file name changes, being able to basically filter out specific types of files if you don't want to move any large videos or any .exe files. All of that are things that is already built into the software and are easy settings for us to set up for you. And then the global scale and the fact that the software does run in parallel. So we are able to scale at very high rates of speed. Right now, I would say our peak has been around 60 terabytes in a day before across multiple servers and multiple farms. But it always ends up being a beneficial situation, especially in times like this, where there may be amounts of content that you need to move in a very short period of time to be able to get into the cloud. And we can help you be able to reach those deadlines. And then what I'll just touch on very quickly, our security model. So if you are working in an industry that is highly regulated, you have HIPAA, PII, things of that nature involved, You'd probably be very happy to know that our software does not do any interrogation of content. We actually don't even hold any data at rest, and we can be deployed on premise. So any type of firewalls or security platforms that you have across your environment will cover your migration as well. The other big benefit to this is that we will never be the bottleneck in a migration. We directly stream the content from source to destination. So however fast that we are able to move, as much bandwidth as you are able to provide and as much content as you have, will really determine on the time frames of those migrations. But at the end of the day, you can rest assured that it is just a direct A to B stream, and our security conversations are generally extremely short. And just some quick proof points here, and then I'll pass it back over to Kip. So our software has been, like I said, around for about 6 years now. We've worked in the Microsoft space. I've been a global managed ISV partner here for the better part of three years. And I just wanted to touch on a few clients that we've worked with in the past that I thought would be beneficial here. The first one is JDA. We were actually able to move 1,500 users and 6 terabytes of content from network file shares to OneDrive for Business in under 30 days. Then we also have Spirit Communications, where we moved 400 users in only a week to OneDrive for Business. And then the last one that's not actually listed on the screen that we worked with in joint pursuit with JourneyTEAM was Health Equity, where we were actually moving 14 terabytes of content and 2,500 users from tenant to tenant, helping to kind of consolidate those multiple environments together. So like I said, we do have about 30 different connectors pre-built into the software for both on-premise and cloud systems. So wherever your data may be resting currently, but you want to be able to get access to Teams, definitely let us know, and we're more than happy to be able to assist you with that.
Awesome. All right, so we're almost wrapped up on time. I want to just give this opportunity. We have some key things and next steps, I think, for you guys to consider. And I'm actually, Dave, I don't know if we want to end it on time, or if we actually, some people want to stick around and answer some questions, I'm available to do so. So I'll leave that up to you. But really key things that I would walk away with if I were people listening. One, that Office 365 information architecture, it needs to happen. I can't say it enough. I'm sure half of you, if I've already spoken with you, you've already heard my spiel on how critical this is. The second thing, in which we can also help you with, is a tenant health check, locking down Office 365, making sure that users just can't provision willy-nilly all over the place, locking it down so that way key areas a user doesn't accidentally share the entire HR site with some external access, right? Let's lock this thing down. And lastly, the other thing is, which is a major issue, is group provisioning. It is a mess. It's even a mess for IT, let alone if we want to allow users to auto provision. So that's another area we can help you with. And of course, the SkySync guys, reach out to them, do some analysis on the content in which you have, and do some migration analysis and planning as well in regards to what that might look like for you guys to move content into your 365 tenants. So Dave, I'll leave it over to you to determine if we want to address some questions.
Kip, if I might just add one thing, this is Ed.
Yep.
Another topic that's been top of mind for folks during this, remote workspace activity has been security, and more specific, cloud security. So one of the other tools that we have at our disposal and that we can share is a cloud security assessment. And actually, for all of the items that Kip mentioned before, as well as some of the cloud security things, identity and access management, because being remote a lot of times opens that door for some of those things. In many cases, we're also able to obtain some subsidy funding from Microsoft to support organizations with that. It's not 100% guarantee, but it's something to consider. And if you're interested in finding out more, make sure you get in touch with us across the board there.